Hello and welcome everybody to as every week a new episode of the Groundeffect podcasts. This week around we were over for the second time this season in the United States of America. This time we weren't in Miami like I think round 10 it was. This time at round 20 it was in Austin, Texas for the circuit of the Americas, or the short version, COTA, for the penultimate round of the season in all our divisions really. So yeah, it was interesting week for sure. As some people could make the debut as champion pretty much, or as constructors champion as well. Kota obviously known for great racing, good overtaking, different lines, especially going into the final sector. Also, the only track with an uphill turn one, so that was definitely very interesting considering braking of with basically 20 cars everywhere next to each other. Um, and Blade will guide you through this with me once more. But I would say let's just head over to the action right now, which starts off as every week with Division 1. In Division 1, we had a new race winner, this time for Ferrari, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the first race win this season in Division 1 for Ferrari, actually, because Lone Retreat and Dub Turner couldn't get their car into the P1 spot after the race, but Ghost Jr. could. He won for Ferrari from B4 in second, Sora in third, and Blade in fourth. So the three championship contenders, right next to each other. So not many points between them here as well. SLI Jam, after 3 second track limits infringement penalty, drops down from P2 to P5 on his debut in Division 1, with Gary the Goat, the GSR driver, in P6 on a preset, actually, I believe, if I'm not fully mistaken. But yeah, strong race from him anyways. With Drazi in P7 after a lion half defense from him at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Then I've got myself in P8 with Torpen for Alpine in P9, and Laham, the Division 3 champion, also on his Division 1 debut with a point to his name. Looking at the driver standings then, the Sora still leads the way, so nothing changed there, but it just got closer because Beeford edged closer once more, so he's now only 4 points behind him. So Sora on 275 with Beeford on 271. Blade lost some ground to the two others. He's now on 262 points with Drazi on 169, so he's now almost 100 points adrift from the top three. With Rage on 105 points, Ninja on 74, Partig on 73, and Michael Dale on 71. So all three of those didn't score any points because obviously they didn't participate. Gary the Goat then on 58 points in P9, and Coded Ghosts Jr., due to his win on 41 points, gets into the top 10 of the driver standings. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, Williams have finally wrapped the Constructors up and are now Division 1 Constructors Champions of Season 3 with the drivers Blade and Drazi. They sit on 432 points, so they'll just about miss out on 500 points this season. Red Bull on 350 points, around 80 points behind them. Then I've got Mercedes on 297, so despite Beeford carrying the team over most part of the season, they are now sitting in a solid third place, which definitely is a great achievement for them. Alfa Romeo on P4 with 243 points, just 15 points ahead from McLaren at 228. So with amazing final round, maybe Marco and Rage can get themselves up by one position in the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin then on 162 points, another 60 behind McLaren. Then we've got Alpine 7 points behind Aston Martin on 155 points, with Ferrari gaining big ground there on the others, as they now sit on 113 points, with Haas on 75 and Alpha Tauri on 48 points. Well, Blade, I mean, if you would have predicted Coda Ghosts, you probably would have earned a lot of money over the course of last week, but I think nobody really did. That came out of nowhere.
Yep, definitely. I think Connor Ghost did a very good job in the race. He got a very good start and yeah, didn't make any mistakes. I don't think. I think his pace might have been a little bit slower than the cars behind, but he definitely had enough pace, especially on the hard stint to have quite a decent gap. So even though he was probably a little slower on the medium stint, he had the gap and was able to keep ahead of the rest of the pack. So yeah, very good job for him. I think I don't know. He's one of the few drivers. I don't know how many there are, but one of the few drivers to win in three divisions this
He's the
season.
only one.
So
Yeah.
he's the only one. Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, he's done a very good job, and I think he can be very happy about his performance at Kota.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, amazing performance by him, and Ferrari definitely needed it because it's always obviously good to see the prancing horse on the top step of the podium. Speaking of winning in three different divisions, obviously Jam and Ham could potentially do the same at Brazil, because they've won in Division 4 and Division 3. Might have been some misplacement by myself there, but let's not talk about this. Jam, for example, had an amazing performance, and let's quickly talk about those two. I mean, Ham was running solidly in the top eight, I think, at the beginning of the first stint, and Jam just crossed the line in P2. I mean, we obviously knew that they are very quick, but to immediately settle in this very tight and fast grid is quite amazing. And I think we're looking forward to them maybe seeing them in the top division next season, aren't we? Because that's gonna put the field maybe even a bit closer than it was recently.
Yep, definitely. I think yeah, very strong performance from Jam. I believe he overtook Sora and B Ford, I think, to
Yes.
get
Yeah, yeah.
into second position on track, obviously because of his penalty. Um, yeah, he dropped a couple points, positions, sorry, and yeah, I think it would have been extremely impressive if he went straight from Division 3 to Division 1 and got a second place on his debut, but yeah, obviously wasn't to be for him, and I'm sure he'll be um, looking to, do well. We will see what divisions they put in for next season, but if he's in Division One, he'll definitely be hoping to get a podium, maybe a win, and obviously maybe in the last round as well. So and obviously Ham, who also graduated up to Division One last race. He was sitting quite well, but unfortunately had a little spin and came home in 10th. So still a point, but I'm sure Ham wants a bit more than that, considering the caliber of driver he is.
Well, yeah, definitely. So I'm definitely looking forward to their performances and appearances, obviously, over at Interlagos. I mean, before we head over to the most important topic in GRL, let's first of all start with the Constructors' Championship. I mean, Draz and yourself have finally wrapped it up to be Constructors Champions, and after yourself winning the Division 2 Constructors Championship, despite only being there for half the season, after getting promoted. I mean, I'm sure it's quite a relief to at least pick up one Formula One title this season. So it definitely wasn't for nothing.
Yeah, definitely my first Division One title. Second to come next week, I'm sure, right? So, but yeah, it was. I think, like I said in previous podcasts, I think me and Jazzy have just been the strongest lineup. We've turned up for all the races. We've always been up there on pace. If one of us does badly, the other usually does quite well. So yeah, hopefully next time out in Brazil, it will be both of us up on the podium. So that would be very nice because yeah, it's been a lot of fun with Jazzy this season, and yeah, really, he's just been a great teammate, and yeah, as obviously as we saw in this race where he yeah, defended very hard against Sora, uh, in order to try and keep him, give me a chance to catch back up to him because obviously, I had a little spin earlier in the race from P2, which yeah, definitely isn't ideal when you're fighting in a championship, but yeah, Drazzy tried his best to hold Sora up so I could get back past, and yeah, it was very good to see, very happy. So yeah, I think we've deserved it this season. So um, yeah, don't really have much more to say, but
Yeah, I
very
mean,
happy.
as said, amazing season from you two. I mean, you just talked about, I mean, Drazzy defending against Sora. I mean, this was only the penultimate round, and I mean, in real life, for example, in 2021, they also have some things happen in the penultimate round. I remember, between that was Red Bull and Mercedes. I mean, those are also involved, but we'll see what happens there. But what do you think of what you can reveal, obviously? I mean, do you think that was the first taste of Drazzy just fighting Sora as hard as he can, or do you think there's even more to come to really push Williams to the top of both championships?
Yeah, well, I think me and Drazzy will both be so clear in Brazil that we won't need to. No, I'm
Okay.
kidding.
Quote.
No, but yeah, I mean, obviously, it's down to Drazzy, but yeah, I think if Sora or Beeford happens to be behind him, potentially he'll hold them up a little bit and help me out, which will yeah, I definitely need it because I think Sora and Beeford will be very quick, as they usually are. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Drazzy's always got very strong pace as well at every track, particularly in qualifying. So if he can qualify ahead of, well, I mean, he's going to qualify ahead of Beeford, let's be honest. But if he can qualify ahead of Sora, at least
Big surprise.
yeah, shock of the season if Drazzy gets out qualified by Beeford.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if we base it off China and France from qualifying time, I think we can expect some very close qualifying times, probably around 4.5, 5 tenths between the whole grid, because Brazil is obviously very close. But yeah, as I said, the main thing now is the Drivers' Championship. It's between three drivers from three constructors, which are also the top three in the team standings itself. Um, and
Yeah.
there's so many different scenarios. Considering this championship outcome really, but yeah, to everyone who's watching, I mean, we'll have a path for this as well, so I'll not reveal too much for now. And yeah, well, you've just heard him on the first bit of our podcast, but he is a championship contender in GRL Division 1 when we go into the season finale next week. It's Blade, obviously, despite also guiding all the podcasts with me. Thanks for joining me here right now. Well, it's actually the first proper Division One championship fight you are in, and basically kind of not randomly, but surprisingly after you started the season. I mean, you're really close to the top and the trophy. You're 13 points away from Sora sitting in P1. You could maybe even lead the championship now if there weren't some circumstances happening around you, sometimes caused by self, sometimes by people around you. I mean, just going into that final race of the season, what can you look back on? Doesn't matter if you win or not. Like, what are your highlights of the season so far? Let's start with this.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I've been pretty happy with my performance this season. I think I've come a long way from the start of the season. I think if I was the same pace as I was the start of the season, I would be nowhere near the championship. So I'm pretty happy, from personally improving my performance. But going on to the season highlights, I mean, I don't know. There's been some good moments. There's been some not so good moments. I think, yeah. I mean, I think one that sticks out to me was China because I think that was probably a really important race for me. I wouldn't be in the championship without that race. Scoring all but one possible point in that race. So against an extremely strong grid. So I was very happy with that performance. What else? Abu Dhabi was pretty nice. I don't know. I think I could have won that race, but there's some crazy stuff that happened, which probably made it a bit easier for me to win the race. But obviously, the first win of the season is always a nice one. And I'll try and pick out one more. Um,
Maybe Abu
I
Dhabi.
think. Hmm?
Abu
What's this?
Dhabi.
Sorry.
Abu Dhabi
Yeah, I said
possibly.
that Abu Dhabi last time. What did I say? Did I say something else? I don't know. Abu Dhabi was what I was saying
Yeah, no,
before.
I mean just
Yeah.
like my bad. I mean like moving up the table like Abu Dhabi, you had some races where it just started far down and just could move your way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Imola was one of those. Where I mean, you
Oh
got
God.
quite
Yeah.
unlucky
Imola.
there, but I mean, you definitely had the pace there, just quite unlucky. I mean, same as Spa really, where you
No.
didn't start up top, but you probably couldn't class this as highlights really. Um, um, Bahrain, you also had some great pace. I think just Sora getting into your way. But yeah, as you said, really there were some good moments and some bad moments. But yeah, you're facing Beeford and Sora now, basically going into Brazil. Um, they're really close to each other, considering the points tally. I mean, they're separated by 4 points. Looking at those two from your perspective, what do you think is different between those two kinds of drivers? Like, what separates a Sora compared to a B Ford driving style?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is the quali pace. I think is a little different. Yeah. Generally, Beeford doesn't do too well in quali, but he's very strong in the race, and I think with Sora, I think Sora's a bit more of an aggressive driver. He's definitely, I think, especially in terms of quality on raw pace, I think he's a bit quicker. But in the race, they're probably equal. Maybe Beeford's quicker than Sora. So yeah, I think those two are very closely matched, mainly in the race. And they'll be very tough opponents to beat. But I think the big thing for me is that I don't think either of them are in the greatest of form right now. Whereas, I mean, ignoring last race, which I probably should have won. Ignoring last race, I think, yeah, I think I've been on stronger form than those two. Surprisingly for me, I've been on stronger quali form as well. So, yeah, I definitely think it'll be interesting. Pretty much 4 points between the two of them. So that's, if they're in the top four, that's like one position change, and then one's the champion or whatever. So yeah, I know for me, I've got a bit of a 13-point gap. I think that's quite a big gap, I'd say. So I know I'm going to go full send in this last race. Just absolutely give it everything I have, and if I push it over the limit, at least I can say I gave it absolutely everything.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that
yeah.
basically answers the question I was about to ask, like, how many percent are you going to give going into the Brazil? Is like, if I can win it, I'm quite happy, or is like absolutely full send, and I think we'll heard the answer. Someone is definitely gonna try to repeat the race win from last season. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, Sora and Beeford, different types of drivers. You probably meet them somewhere in the middle, yeah, we could say. But yeah, it's just gonna be a massive final, and if you had to choose, like if it was excluding yourself, obviously, I think we both can agree that you'd love to see yourself winning the championship. But over the course of the whole season, looking at Sora and Beeford, Rappel and Mercedes, obviously some great rivalries there. Who do you think over the course of the 21 races who would have probably deserved it more to win this championship, or at this stage, would you just rather say whoever is beating each other in Brazil has deserved it?
Well, whoever scores the most points, So
Oh, great.
yeah, no, that's a pretty tough question because to me it doesn't matter who out of the two of them is better as long as I'm winning the championships. But jokes aside, yeah, I think it's hard to ignore how strong Sora's been. He's I think led pretty much every single round. I think all but probably about two or three
Except
rounds this
round 2 and
season.
3, yes.
Yeah,
Round
so
1 and
hard to ignore
from
that,
round
but
4 onwards.
yeah, yeah. So I think he's definitely been, I think compared to me and Beeford, the strongest over the course of the season. But I think, like I said earlier myself, that I've improved a lot. I think Beeford has also improved a lot. I think somehow at the start of the season his quality pace was even worse than it was now, and I know he liked to run some strange setups at the start of the season as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think Beeford has come a long way, and it also I think we can't really ignore Beeford's run as well. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure he's never finished lower than seventh. I think
no, he has not.
so.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
worst result at
that's an
Abu Dhabi.
yeah incredible statistic. Yeah, whereas I
Over a
think
hundred gained positions as well.
yeah, yeah. So you can definitely tell he's a race merchant.
Yes.
But yeah, he's you know, like to say who deserves it more, yeah, I really think it's impossible to say, and pretty much whoever wins the title deserves the championship more. I think that one race, it's probably well, you have to say it's the most important race of the season of the two of them. It's pretty much can be down to who bottles the least under pressure, basically. And
Yes.
yeah,
I mean,
so but anyways, yeah, I'm going to outscore both of them anyway. So we'll be talking about me
the
next week, I'm sure.
confidence is there. That's a good sign. But you all three of you were like not alongside, next to each other on the race results last time out. So I'll hope it will be the same. Just from your point of view, maybe not for the top three positions. You'll hope that there's someone in between. But yeah, that's basically it already. So that was some insight from Blade on this championship battle. He'll try to gain back the 13 points disadvantage he has currently on Sora, and 9 points he's missing on Beeford. So he's definitely going for this championship, and I think we'll can't wait to see if the Williams driver can make it his first GRL Division 1 title with hopefully his next win from his point of view. So definitely going to be interesting. And yeah, thanks Blade for joining us for this part then. Well, now that was enough of Division 1 and championship contention and everything. So we'll now head over to Division 2, where the champion is already crowned. Jackster has won at Kota to also win his Drivers' Championship. So yeah, he wasn't on pole, but wrapped it up in the race. Second was codenamed Delta, with Amos Lloyd in third, so Aston Martin with a double podium, so very important for their championship as well. O'Marlo in the Rebel in P4 was supposed to be in a Williams, but sadly for Blade's team, he picked a Rebel, so that's not ideal for their overall constructors. F1 XL Kimi on his debut in Division 2 got himself up to P5, so a solid 10 points for him, with Fire Dolphin in P6, so he finished on P3 on track, but due to a 3 second track limits penalty, he dropped down to P6 with Jasper in P7, Adrian Nolan, also his debut in Division 2 in P8, Distant Bart only in P9, he got spun around 2 times, got damaged I think once or twice, and the drive for a penalty for good measure ruined his whole race and probably championship with it. Then we've got Sinks Motion in P10 classified, but didn't actually score points because of his too early retirement. Looking on the driver standings, so as said, Jackster has won the championship. He's sitting on 271 points with Distant Bard on 240. They've got the Slappers on 206 points in third, with Chisa Otten 156 and Amos Lloyd on 134. So with the perfect weekend, Lloyd could probably get himself up to P4 in the standings. Chisa Dandan on 94 points, with Codename Delta and Clever both on 83 points. Seachin on 77 and Omalo as a reserve driver. The best reserve driver actually with 44 points. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, Alpine extend their advantage. They're sitting on 529 points, with Ferrari 259, so they're really close to making it double points compared to P2 are Alpine here. Aston Martin then on 249 points, and with their run of form now, they could probably get up to P2 in the championship as well. So as said, very crucial that double podium for the Silverstone-based team. Then we've got Red Bull on 227 points, who, like Aston Martin, jump Alfa Romeo, who are now in P5 with 219 points. Then I've got Mercedes on 186 points, with Haas on 129 and Williams on 118. In P9, we've got the Scuderia AlphaTauri on 99 points, with McLaren on 93 to round off the table. So also, at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship, it's still very close for, let's say, the golden ananas, really, like pineapple, that is in English. But yeah, Jackster won the championship, and I think after his recent performances, despite finishing the race with half a wing at a China blade, I think we can agree that this was deserved, despite the probably Slappers just not being there for a couple of rounds definitely helped when he was leading with 80 points.
Yep, definitely. I think the end of the season, Jex has really been the strongest driver in Division Two. He's had some incredibly strong results in these past I don't know how many rounds, but for the latter half of the season, he's done extremely well, and yeah, he's beaten out his teammate Bard, and obviously had to overcome that massive gap that Slapbus managed to build over them uh, at the start of the season. So yeah, definitely well deserved. I think, really, he's just had such incredible pace towards the end of this season, and I don't really think too many people had answers for him. No.
Yeah, I mean, since Lapus left, out of the 10 races completed, basically, Alpine won 6 of them, 2 of them being Distant Bard, and 4 of them being Jackster. So definitely won more races than Distant Bard. So despite the tough opposition, he could finally decide that for himself. And from the interview after the race on the GRL Racing League channel, you could hear that he was quite relieved, despite having such a big gap in the middle of the season, to come back, gain it back, and win the championship. So that's definitely great for him. Yeah, I mean, Division 2 has maybe died down a bit, just a little bit, because obviously there's not anymore the championship fight we were talking about the whole season. I mean, in midfield with Dan, Delta, Clever, and Siege really close to each other, or Lloyd being close to Otto now because he got promoted. I mean, in the constructors as well, Alpinos have absolutely destroyed any competition that's ever taken place there, especially since Slappers is gone. But looking at Interlagos now, where Jackson said he might do a last to first, a last question mark really. Blade, what do you think? Can we look forward to? So some highlights on Brazil. What can we maybe expect or hope for?
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting race. I think now there isn't really too much to play for. Obviously, the midfield is very competitive, so I think really from Dan downwards to about Zeech, they'll be looking to scrap it out for the what is that, about sixth place or fifth place? I think sixth. Um,
Yes.
is it? Yeah. So yeah, I think
Dan, you
they'll
mean?
be yeah, Dan. Did I
Dan
not say
is
Dan? I don't.
P6, yeah. Just double
Yeah,
check.
sixth. So yeah, I think obviously Del Clever and Zeech, they definitely will be looking to take the position off him because even if it is only for sixth, it's always nice to be, you know, a couple positions higher than you already are. So yeah, it will be interesting battle for them. But I think for everyone else, it might be I don't know. I think people might take a bit more risk. There isn't really too much to lose. I know, we often see rain in Brazil, so I know, we know Bard's very quick in the rain, so
Yeah,
could be
obviously
one
due
for.
to his skill, not any assists connected with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean the rain might remind him of a
Oh God.
previous season, so maybe he won't want it to rain because I think there'll be as much water in his car from the tears as there are rain. So yeah, um, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting last race. We could see a completely random winner. Maybe Lloyd can pick up a win. I don't think he's won this season,
Yeah, no, he
but
hasn't. I think it's like 4 second places.
yeah,
He said he definitely
yeah.
wants to
So
win because technically he hasn't had a season without a race win because
yeah, yeah,
season one
yeah.
he obviously won that special GRL versus SRS event, one of our partner leagues back then, and last season he's won in Baku where I think last season at Baku when he won the sprint weekend he actually scored more points than in the rest of his whole season. So yeah, I think we all would love a race win for Lloyd, especially as
Yeah,
his team at Delta won the first race of the season, so it would be quite nice if he could win the last race of the season. So they're just missing the 19 rounds in between.
yeah. I'm forgetting also the constructors. Aston Martin are definitely looking to take that P2 spot. Very, very doable with. I don't think Flatbus is turning up for the rest of the season. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's definitely doable for them. So they'll want at least 11 points probably to take that one.
Yeah,
So yeah, they'll want that.
who's
I
that
think
against
Lloyd
Red
will
Bull?
definitely
Yeah,
want
Red Bull got more race. No, they've got the same race wins, I think, even. So because
that.
Dan has won a single race and so has Delta. So
Yeah.
definitely gonna be very interesting. But looking at the results of Lloyd, yeah, there are several podiums, mostly second places actually. As I'm just completing this, yeah, this was actually his first third place this season, and he also had 3 second places. One of them being at Hungary, for example, where he had unreal pace. Um, but Jackster was even quicker. So yeah. So with Jackster starting last, maybe Lloyd can make it a P1 for Aston Martin in Brazil. Would definitely be good to see. Might need to stop using that low gears. That's the Lloyd thing. But
Especially if it rains. I wouldn't
yeah,
recommend first gear in
yeah.
the middle.
Senna's first gear, floor it really. That's the best.
I think the
Yeah,
whole middle sector is just going to be first gear.
yeah. I mean, looking at the grid so far, we definitely have some interesting names in there as well. For example, Beastie, because Division 3 basically has already finished the season, so he got moved up. Maybe he could be dangerous. AMS Thomas. AMS always has some solid drives, so maybe he can make it another podium or even race win. I think us both are really big fans of Edinburgh as well, who'll definitely cause some action and drama there. Uh, GSR Delta and Codename Delta, obviously, but the Codename Delta is just a very consistent race merchant there, while GSR Delta is surely one of the quickest drivers in this division right now as well. So definitely looking forward to a very interesting Division 2 race, but who will come out on top, we'll see. Maybe Jackson does the last to first, maybe Lloyd wins, maybe we see a surprise winner, or Distant Barda just wins because he's annoyed with the championship outcome. But yeah, that's Division 2 wrapped up. And how we usually should do it, we just jump from Division 2 to Division 4, because why not? In Division 4, we had a new winner, actually. Why am I even surprised? It's Division 4. Jock won for McLaren at Kota with Jacob Brown in second after his final qualiban of the season, with Michael in P3, so another podium for the Polish driver. Then we've got Oh Big Boy in P4 for Apple, with Ronnie in P5, so McLaren making it a double top 5 finish. Jamie Hobson, after his penultimate quali ban of the season, sadly, is in P6 for Ferrari and keeps the championship alive with it. Jakob then in P7 after crash with Jacob Brown's teammate Krigmit. We've got PDV2 in P8, so the second Alpine just behind the first one, with Rex in P9. He can still score points, who would have thought, with Andrew in P10. Going to the driver standings, so as said, Jacob Brown hasn't quite yet won the championship, but it's looking quite likely as he's got a 24-point gap to second place Hobbs, who's sitting on 226 points, while said Jacob sits on his 250. We've got Jakob on 180 points, who has confirmed now his All-Star race spot, with Ronnie on 155.5 points, many fives in this points tally, with Krigmit on 137, who was a bit annoyed after the US Grand Prix. Andrew then on 90 points, with Rex on 86.5 and Michael on 79.5. So it's definitely still very close for this sixth position in the championship. And then we've got Raven West on 62 points, and running off the top 10 table, we've got Dobby on 48. Over at the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri obviously wrapped up the Constructors last week already. They now sit on 448 points, so also them will slightly miss out on the 500 points mark, with Ferrari on 312, McLaren on 286, and Alpine on 249. Back there in the midfield, Williams have now overtaken Aston Martin as they get up to 170 points, and the team in British Racing Green on 160 points drops down by one position in the championship. The Haas have one team then on 139 points, with Alfa Romeo on 128, Red Bull on 103, and Mercedes still only on 58 points, so they're not having a great time either in Division 4. Well, we said Division 1 was a surprise with Coded Ghosts. I mean, where has Jock come from?
Yeah, I've got no clue to be honest. I didn't even know. I saw the results and I didn't even know who he was to begin with. So I thought he was a debutant, but I remember you told me earlier this week that he wasn't. So yeah, um, I mean, let's be honest. Well, I don't know why we weren't expecting this because it is Division 4 after all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely good job by the McLaren driver. York is his name. I don't know,
I have no
but
clue.
yeah, we'll call him Jay.
J.
Jay did a good job today. Yeah,
J.
well, not today, on Monday. So
J. Not
yeah,
today. Okay.
but yeah, it was yeah, good to see another race winner. I don't know whether he's racing next week, but if he is, he'll definitely want to repeat it. That'd be pretty crazy if he wins a race out of nowhere and then wins another one out of nowhere to become one of the few people in this division to win more than one race.
Yeah.
But
The magic number
yeah,
is now 14, I think.
yeah.
14
So I'm
races.
sure it'll be 15 next time when Andrew wins and pours the vodka over his head or
I mean, he
whatever.
has one
So,
already. You've missed that.
oh, he
In
has one
Spain.
already.
Yeah, I mean, he
Wow.
finished 18 seconds off P1 back at Spain, but P1 reset the track. So he won that race.
Oh,
That was
but we only
actually.
want to see it. We only want to see him win because of his vodka anyway.
Yeah,
So,
just
oh
come
well.
on, Jacob and Hobbs. The championship battle isn't as important as the man who loves Ava Max and vodka. So, but yeah, I mean, McLaren had not the best of seasons overall, but yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to see him on the top. I mean, he hasn't really shown much pace before this, but this has basically come out of nowhere. Um, yeah, the driver standings, I think we can agree, despite Hobbs still having the chance, and I think with his qualiban, he's just going to go all in, but I think it's near impossible, right, to get that championship lead of Jacob in this final round.
Yeah, I think for Hops, I think he needs a bit of a miracle for him to win the championship because he basically has to. Well, he'll be starting last or almost last. I don't know how many
Yeah,
people have qualibans, but I know
I think he's
Division Four
maybe even
seems to
the
be.
only one.
Oh, he's. Oh
I
wow.
can
I know
check that.
Division Four's a fan of qualibans, so I'm surprised.
Oh yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. The only four. I might have.
Oh, only
I was
four. Yeah.
optimistic,
Yeah.
yeah, because two of them were
Yeah.
from last week. So yeah,
Yeah.
not
So I
ideal.
mean, at best he'll be starting 16th. I think.
I mean, I think it will be
So
even further ahead because well, I doubt we'll get the full grid together, but I mean, hope so.
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But
So
yeah, I mean, one of the
yeah.
people, two of them, sorry, are actually racing. But yeah, one of them is Krigmid, is Krigmid, the teammate of Jacob Brown. So Hobbs will try to make sure that he starts behind him, so he can't get blocked either. But I don't think it's needed. I think AlphaTara just focusing on themselves for next race with just hoping that Hobbs just not suddenly finds like 8 tenths in his lap times. Um, but yeah, Jacob Brown will be able to do qualifying again. I mean, we don't know if he's still capable of a good quali lap because he hasn't done any for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, a bit out of practice, I think. So
Yeah,
he might have another quali ban, basically. No.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
a
but
wise man once said, once said 7 days ago, pretty much. If you have a quali ban, you might not practice qualifying. Well,
yeah.
wise words. Um,
I mean, I know we'll get onto it later, but I'm pretty sure someone practiced for a different track, a different American track.
oh
So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll get onto that. But
yeah.
you know, yeah, Jacob Brown. I think it's definitely his to lose. You have to say because I mean, if you lose 24 points in one round to your championship rival that you're probably quite a bit quicker than, yeah,
Skill
it
issue.
would probably take something quite incredible. But you never know because we've seen in real life that around Brazil, some miracles do happen sometimes. So yeah, we'll see what happens. As unlikely as it is, but yeah, it's pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah. I mean, just to make sure, Hobbs has already won this season, but yeah, Hobbs has to win this race. And out of the 20 races that happened, Hobbs has won 0.05% of the races. So it's maybe not the most likely thing to happen. But he can obviously upgrade this time. And if he would win, this would certainly spice things up a little bit. And Adam Reed will definitely enjoy it. Maybe even a Brazil from when was that, 2008? Could be. It's quite a huge gap, and a Ferrari domination would be quite similar as well. So definitely
Yep,
looking
yep.
forward to that. But yeah, I think nevertheless, whoever wins out is probably a deserved champion. I mean, Hobbs had a rough end to the season and was probably quite lucky that Jacob Brown wasn't the smartest driver either, considering his qualifying bans. But yeah, we'll definitely see how this pans out. And for now, let's head over to Division 5. In Division 5, we had another win for McLaren. It wasn't Triangular Lemon this time, it was Old Sport who took P1 with Heike in P2 and Maka in P3. Then I've got J Street in P4 with Boosted RB in P5 for Williams, Masala in P6, Pet Peda in P7, Duncan in P8, the pole sitter. I think it's his second pole of the season, but could only get himself 4 points in the main race. Then we've got RM Guarini in P9, so another points finish for the Ferrari driver with the Rick in P10. In the driver standings, as you can see, Maka 252 points, with Haken 218. Then we've got Boosted on 152 and Lemon on 134. Paloma then on 111, maybe even able to attack Lemon for that P4 spot. Then we've got Masala on 101 points and Batsy on 85, with J Street after his amazing P4 finish at Kota on 81 points, and maybe he's also on course to attack at least one of the two Alfa Romeos in the driver standings come Interlagos. Then we've got Old Sport on 75 points. So with his win, he scored a third of his whole points tally this season, with Matt on 69 points for Alpine. In the team standings, Aston Martin sit on 366 points and obviously have wrapped up the Constructors' Championship with McLaren on 305 points. We've got Red Bull 254 and Alpine on 224. So the top four are quite separated from the rest, because down there it gets some kind of mess. Williams on 195 points, with Alfa Romeo 2 points behind them, 193. We've got Alfa Tauri in 156, overtaking the Scuderia Ferrari on 146 points. And then also Haas passes Mercedes, because Haas is now on 133 points, with Mercedes on 131 points. So quite remarkable. And even the P10 spotted team actually is on 131 points. But yeah, the most important thing alongside Old Sport's first win of the season is probably that Maka is now world champion, and it's quite a curiosity. It wasn't always like this, because actually Heike was just about on the verge to keep the championship alive, but the 5-second time penalty, due to causing a collision with Lewis F1 in the Mercedes, I believe that was, cost him that chance and the P1, which loses him crucial points, and this has made Maka champion. I mean, well played. I think a couple of rounds ago would have said there's no chance this will not go to Brazil, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not too long ago, I think when I started joining you for these podcasts, it was looking like probably the juiciest championship of them all, really, with Lemon, Heike, and Mecca basically separated by about 4 points at one point, or maybe a bit more than that. But yeah, I don't know how many races later, but here we are, and it hasn't even gone to Brazil, which is sad. I mean, it would have done if obviously there wasn't a little bit of crashing, but yeah. I think really, I remember you telling me, I don't know whether it was right or whatever, but if Heike had kept his win, he would have needed, what,
All
27
27 points.
points? Yeah. I mean, we talked about how Hobbs needs a miracle. I think that's, yeah. For Heike to get all the points and for Mecca, a very strong driver in this division, to score absolutely none, um, yeah, would have taken more than a miracle. And if he did win the championship, I think he should have bought a lottery ticket, because that's yeah, the odds definitely wouldn't have been in his favour. But we don't have to worry about that anyway, because he's not doesn't have the chance to get it in the last race anyways. So yeah, I think a bit unfortunate that it didn't go to the end, but I think it
Yeah,
speaks volumes about how well Mac has performed. Really,
I mean,
he's been
if
very
Heike would
strong.
have won the championship, oh, sorry, if Heike would have won the race, it would have been his sixth win, and we know someone else who's on 6 wins. So yeah, maybe a penalty will come into play there, but this time Red Bull won out. But yeah, um, let's be honest, it wasn't this race that caught Heike out, really. It was the punctured China at the final lap, when he was on for 12 points but only scored one. So that definitely wasn't ideal. But I think we both can agree that, I mean, Maka was consistent all season. He was always up there, also with the guys of Jakob and Ronnie. He was always like third quickest, which definitely showed that he's the man to beat. And maybe it's also a sign that Division 5, like this grid we have here, we don't know what division these drivers will be in next season, but it's probably a sign that this division moves up. It's getting faster everywhere, and drivers that are now in the upper midfield might be um, second drivers only next season because, as said, it's all very close, and with more data, we also know where everyone is. But yeah, for now, it looks like Maka is the one to beat, as said, and Heike has to wait at least another season to make it his first driver's title in GRL. But let's talk about old sport. I mean, he was 9 times behind Heike crossing the line, no ticket involving him, and I think he's done everything right.
Yeah, definitely. I think Oldsport has had a very strong end to this season, which is encouraging for him. I feel like he scored the majority of McLaren's points in the last couple of races. So
Yes, he's basically
yeah,
replaced Lemon. So
yeah. I mean, if you gave Old Sports points to Lemon, it probably would be quite an interesting championship still
yeah,
with him in. But
I mean, at Canada he finished
yeah,
second for McLaren. At the Dutch Grand Prix he was ninth for McLaren. At the French Grand Prix, he wasn't in the top 10, so maybe a crash involved there. In China, he was on P4 for McLaren, and now he won for McLaren at Kota. So definitely some great performances, and maybe he was actually a top three driver in his last few races. So good to see. I mean, I think we can both agree that it's probably around the level of Boost, that maybe slightly ahead. But yeah, at least Heike would have loved if he wasn't there this week. Um, but yeah, let's talk about one more thing. I mean, midway through the race, we had a newcomer of AMG having wing damage on his Alpine. And he had a battle with the two AlphaTauris of Equine, J Street, the Alfa Romeo of Marsala, and the two Ferraris of ROM James and ROM Greeny. I mean, we always said Division 5 is a quite calm and composed group of people that just try to keep it clean and cautious, and which they obviously usually do. But what do you think has to go on in a driver's mind, like for example, J Street and James, when you just say, I can see there is a hairpin, I'm just gonna make it 5 wide into there. What, why?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. This might seem like a bit out of the blue, but I have 3 words, and that's "Here comes Greeny."
Well,
Yeah. Um,
perfect.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. 5 wide into a hairpin. I don't know. I think if that happened in Division 1, there'd be a lot of shade thrown at each other. Because I don't
Funny
think
you
any
say
Division
this.
1 driver wants to go 5 wide.
Funny you say this. I'm gonna quote myself here what I said because there was actually everything was quite happy and said, "Oh, it was a good battle." I actually said if that happened in Division 1, everyone would be fuming. So I
Yeah.
think we both can agree. If this happened, I think maybe you can go 5 wide into Lagos. I wouldn't advise it. It could win or lose your championship. Probably lose.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, here comes Green was definitely a very good line. I mean, he scored all
Yeah.
the points. James got through on all 4 or 5 of them with just a switchback on like 5 cars. I mean, that's probably the smartest thing he's done all season so far. That sounds quite harsh, but yeah, I think he spun afterwards. I had to pit for damage, but yeah, as we
Yeah.
said, I mean,
Not so smart there.
yeah, he was not so smart there. I mean, but nevertheless, we said the Greeny struggled in his first 2 races and picks up another P9. He was P9 last week as well. I mean, looks like he's finding some form come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks volumes that in China, like, forget the circumstances or anything, he was ahead of Heike, who's second in the championship. So I think that means that Greeny is ready for a championship challenge next season in this division, definitely. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Greeny dominate. Yeah, very excited.
Yeah, he said he
So
wants to fight for podiums. You never know what the new divisions look like, and maybe he can actually fight for podiums and race wins would definitely be good to see. And I think also Beeford will be looking forward to this. Um, but yeah, he's another championship to worry about right now. I mean, also in the midfield, just to top this off, it's very close. But obviously in the team standings, it's very close, but especially in the drivers, isn't it? And especially the best of the rest fight between Paloma, Mashala, Batsi, J Street. I mean, if you just not consider, I would say Maka Heike and maybe Boosted here, was there any? I mean, it's probably hard to tell for Division One driver to rank the Div 5 standings, but um, who would have you said is probably a surprise, especially after the last kind of third of the season, to really show the potential they might have in them?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm not too familiar with all of the names here, but I think Paloma, he's been up there a lot. He's not been a championship contender, obviously, but I always see him scoring quite big points, which is definitely key for Aston Martin in their Constructors' Championship. So I think he's been impressive. Also, Old Sport, obviously coming in to replace Lemon pretty much. He's been pretty impressive this final half of the season. So I think since I've been doing these podcasts, I think they're the names that who aren't obviously Mecca and Heike that stuck out to me the most. They seem to always be up there and putting on pretty strong performances. So yeah, definitely I think those deserve a shout out for the end of their seasons.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Paloma's had some great run of form, and I think in the last six races, he has also had three podiums, which definitely speaks for himself, and is definitely backed up Hake as well. Just bit of bad luck here at Kota this time around. But enough of Division 5. Let's head over to Division 6, where big surprise, Echo's won. He's won at the United States Grand Prix for the Husse 1 team, so they're definitely going to be happy, like Kevin Magnussen is on the picture right next to us here. We've got J-Tilp in P2, with P Apex in P3 due to a time penalty for Jalan. He moves up a position ahead of the Ferrari in P4. Then we've got GWA Panda in P5, with 10th Cannon in P6, Flying Luge in P7, who looked to be on a safe podium spot almost throughout the whole race, but then dropped down to P7. Callum Ladlow on P8 with wing damage. He had to settle for this position with Aliam UTD in P9 and Dabs Gamer in the Alpine in P10. So double points for Aston Martin, Haas, and Alpine. In the driver standings, we can see obviously Echo extend his championship lead to almost 120 points, very close to the 300 points mark. And I'm not 100% certain, but I think he might be the first one to get to this points mark. Then I've got Chetilp on 177 points, so he might have just snatched a P2 away from everyone with 10th Cannon 157 points, Ladlow on 156, and the attacks on 143. But if you think that's the championship, pretty much the championship battles done, it isn't, because Panda's on 99 points with Ali Mutd on 93 and Flying Luge on 88. So those three are really fighting for these crucial top 10 positions. We've got Kel on 68 points and P Apex on 65 points. Also, he could probably edge out Kel for P9. In the Constructors' Championship in Division 6, we've got Aston Martin still leading with 375 points, but that gap's gone down compared to the Haas team because they own 360. And with a gap of 15 points, it's definitely still all to play for going into the Brazilian Grand Prix for round 21. Then we've got Mercedes on 288 points, who would have hoped to fight with those two teams at the top for the title in the final race of the season, but they couldn't get close enough to do so. Then we've got Alpine on 256 points, 4 points ahead now of Alfa Romeo, so they've gained one position to get themselves in the top four of the championship. And we've got Williams on 127, almost 130 points behind Alfa Romeo already, so big gap there, as we also said the last few weeks. Then we've got AlphaTauri 3 points behind and 124, with Red Bull on 123. McLaren on 103 points, and due to Jalen's P4, Ferrari sits on 96 points, and with a solid weekend at Brazil, they can maybe also get into the 100 points club. I mean, obviously, P Apex, he got pole. He now, with the penalty, got a podium. I think he'll be very happy about that, and the whole Haas team will be as well. But I think whatever P Apex does, I mean, he'll always be in the shadow of one man, really, which is Echo, isn't it? Because considering he practiced the wrong track all day and then he wins in Kota. I mean, that's quite remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, considering he won Miami, you think he'd remember that, but clearly not, because yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you just practice a track that's in the same country as the other track, you just gain a bunch of pace. I'm sure that's what everyone else would be hoping, because yeah, Echo's been very strong. Obviously, you mentioned Apex got pole, did he? So I think that's two in a row. Last one, yeah, he probably would rather not talk about that, completely bottling the start.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, I think it's good for Apex that he's got two pole positions in a row, but obviously he needs to avoid those penalties really because they're definitely not helping him out. But I guess probably still good enough for Haas though, because I'm sure they'll be very happy with that haul of points of what is that? That's like 40 points, is it? And plus one for pole. I don't know who got fastest lap, but yeah,
Yeah,
those 41 points could be pretty important because they're right behind Aston Martin now for the
for the
one of the
constructor
few
champion. Yeah.
championships that are still undecided in GRL. Yeah,
Yes,
so
it's only, I think, there are 3 or 4 championship left to be decided. The Division 1 drivers, obviously. Um,
mhm.
the Division 4 drivers. The Division 7 constructors and the Division 6 constructors. So yeah, one of 4 championships yet to be decided. And I think as Aston Martin has seen how you can do it in Division 5, they probably want to do the same like their colleagues over there. But what might be quite interesting is, I mean, a few weeks ago we said, oh, it looks like Jay Tilb is dropping off really, especially compared to his teammate. And now suddenly Jay Tilb is performing and Callum Ledlow is down there with a P8, a P9, or a P10. I mean, even though they scored double points again, I think considering that Haas suddenly have such big momentum, I mean, surely that's a huge danger because Haas have got really 2 probably top 3 drivers at this stage.
Yeah, I mean when you have two of the top three drivers, that's pretty threatening, isn't it? But
Yes,
I think yeah, definitely I think not let's not underestimate the Aston Martin lineup as well, because you could probably argue that you know the with those four drivers, you could probably argue that they're some maybe the top five drivers in this division. So
yes,
yeah, it's definitely going to be a big battle for this first place in the constructors standings. And I think, yeah, J Tub's performance, obviously, you mentioned him pretty much gapping and almost consolidating his second position in the championship. But I think, yeah, his performances recently Aston Martin will be hoping he can do it one more time in the last round because that could be very important. I think their 15 points lead that they have over Haas right now could also be extremely important because I have a feeling that that number will decrease even more between the two of them by the end of next week. But whether it be Haas that are ahead of Aston Martin or Aston Martin that are ahead of Haas is yet to be seen. So yeah, very I think quite exciting. The constructors, I think one of the most exciting considering how uneventful really the driver standings
yeah,
was. But
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
But I mean, what's probably quite interesting, if I have figured this out correctly, is if Haas get a 1-2 to have any chance to win the constructors, Aston Martin then needs to finish third and fourth with both extra points. So they basically need to be in the aim for the top 4 anyways, and not get involved in any stupid incidents. But I guess, yeah, that's the main battle for Division 6. I mean, we still have the battle for the final spot in the All-Star race between 10th Ken and Callum Ludlow and V-Attacks. Because, I mean, technically, JTIL could still finish in P4 because V-Attacks is too far behind, so it won't be fifth. But I think we both can agree that this is quite unlikely. But yeah, that's Division 6 done for this week. And now we head over to Division 7. In Division 7, it was a wet to dry qualifying and a wet to dry to wet race. So definitely very eventful down there in Division 7. I'm sure Miller was enjoying it, that's for sure. But in the end, Wargasm was winning in Division 7 for Alpine. So very important for the overall Constructors' Championship as well. Toxic Finn finishes in P2 for the Haas team, with Rio Harris in P3 for Williams. So he's replaced Spud Racing there with a podium like Spud did China. So back-to-back podiums and P3s for the Williams team. They've got Bright in P4 and McMessy in P5, with Rangers in P6 and Kieran in P7. So Ferrari and McLaren just can't be separated this season. Matthew then in P8 for Mercedes, with Wolf in P9 for Alpine, so double points finish for Alpine as well. With Sparky picking up the final point of the race, not the season, to gain another one in his championship battle against Doorstop and Zedman. In the driver standings, Kieran has finally done it. He's now Division 7 Drivers' World Champion. He's sitting at 279 points with Brighton 241.5, so he can't gain back this massive advantage of the McLaren driver come the end of the Brazilian Grand Prix, with Orgasm 195 points. So despite joining mid-season, Orgasm has really delivered and shown why he should be in this All-Star race. Brown's the Bands on 126 points, 1 point ahead of McMessy on 125, with Matthew on 121.5. So Brown's the Buns wasn't here, so McMessy and Matthew scored once more, so it's still very close for this fourth place in the championship. Then we've got Spud Racing there on 83 after serving his race ban, with Terrific Game on 65 points, with Toxic Finn on 58, jumping up to P9 in the championship, and Rangers on 53. So those two knock Marley down into the bottom 10 in the championship. Ferrari still lead the way in the Constructors' Championship with 418 points, and McLaren at 397. So, despite Brighton not being a winner of the last two rounds, they still lead in the Constructors' Championship by 21 points and definitely want to win at least this one come Brazil. Mercedes then on 214 points in P3, with Alpine on 209, passing Aston Martin, who sit on 193. So Alpine, going into the final round of the season, are eyeing up to move up into P3 of the championship. AlphaTauri done on 158 points, with Haas on 132. We've got Williams on 119, with the podium of Rio Harris moving up into P8 of the championship, because Red Bull still sit on 114 points, gaining only 1 point with the P10 finish of Sparky. Alfa Romeo then on 99 points, rounding off the table. I mean, we've seen some crazy races this season, but to make qualifying wet to intermediate to dry conditions, and the race intermediate to slicks to intermediates in the final three laps even is quite massive, especially for a Division 7 race, where you probably assume those drivers don't have the perfect strategy eyed up, but some of them definitely did, which proved pivotal there. But quite a kind of exhausting weekend for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, with the amount of safety cars that are in Division 7, they usually have quite a few stops, so I think yeah, the usual amount of pit stops this round, but yeah, probably quite crazy really to have probably in one of the craziest divisions to have you know the craziest conditions basically. Yeah, it's pretty rare to have that kind of race where there's an intermediate to dry to intermediate. You know, not very often that happens. So yeah, I'm sure that the Div 7 drivers made the most of that.
Yeah, definitely. Wargasm has proven once again that he's definitely a race winning contender, at least this season, and we'll see what happens next season when he starts off the season as well. Um, yeah, Kieran, as said, has finally won the championship, and despite its pride really pushing close to the boundaries and most of the time maybe even over it, um, we can probably say that Kieran's absolutely deserved this championship and is like a coach just for any upcoming season a force to be reckoned with, isn't he? Because with the amount of podiums and points he scored, he's just already close to an all-time great in GRL.
Yep, definitely. I think his consistency over this season, as we've mentioned about a million times, has spoken volumes about how well he's done this season. And although P7 for him, I think by his standards, isn't really a great finishing position and great race. He It was enough because he had a very big gap because he won last time out in the Chinese Grand Prix. So yeah, I think it helped that I think did Bright get a drive through? I think he did, right? I'm not too sure.
He got a
So
drive through at Sandvort, if I'm not fully mistaken. I
mm.
think he might have gotten in Coat as well. To be honest, I can't can't remember the amount of pits and wings he's picked up and lost. So yeah,
Yep.
let's say it wasn't ideal what he's done in the last month, because it was all running nicely for him before that. But yeah, as you said, Kieran's absolutely bossed it recently, and especially towards the end of the season, he was, despite its pride, having races where he clearly dominated. He was always where needed to be, always on the podium, P2 around there, to just minimize the points loss compared to the Ferrari driver. Um, but one more thing, I mean, looking at the team standings, McLaren are now 21 points behind Ferrari. It's obviously quite a bit of a gap to gain, but do you think if it's bright, maybe once again has a bad race, that McLaren can close that gap? Because I think we probably can both agree if it's bright has a normal race for his sake, Ferrari will probably win this championship.
Yeah. I think well, like I said previously, I think the gap that Ferrari have is quite the important gap because obviously as you said, Bright isn't the most consistent driver. Or hasn't been this season, but when he does well, he does extremely well. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the pressure of the championship on his shoulders anymore, so maybe he'll want to make a statement and win the last race. Um, but I think the same applies for Kieran as well. He no longer has a championship he needs to worry about, so he could also give it his all. But yeah, I mean it's still close, you know. I think looking at the race results again, I think McMessy, who hasn't scored points for a little while, I don't think.
Yeah,
I
he
think
scored
he's done
this week.
extremely.
Yeah, P5
Yeah,
this week.
he did extremely well this week. So I think those 10 points that McMessy picked up could be very important points in this battle. So, or it definitely makes it a lot more comfortable for Ferrari. And with McLaren not having the best weekend for their standards, um, yeah, I think it'd be tough for McLaren. But yeah, like you say, if Ferrari do slip up, they're right there, and they can potentially take the title, as unlikely as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically the Div 7 championship all covered, but now let's just once more come to the information everyone needs to know in GRL, because otherwise we can't live for another day. I mean, what can we expect from a driver that is hampered with a quali ban at Brazil? What can we expect from Spud Racing, Blade? Well, what can you deliver us from the Williams side of things?
Yeah, well, I mean, Spud Racing is he's a good he's definitely consistent. No, I don't think that's right. Yeah, no, he's quick, yeah, but I think we'll either see him on the podium or we'll see him in the wall. So yeah, hopefully it's
Motivational speech right there, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. I mean, we talked about wise men earlier, and as a wise man once said to me, drive fast, don't crash.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think yeah, he needs to listen to that advice because he definitely can drive fast, and we've seen a couple times this season that he can also not crash. So he just needs to
It
put those two
rarely
together.
happens.
Yeah. It rarely happens, but on the times it does happen, he's on the podium. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Christmas,
mean, yeah.
Easter, and his birthday. um,
Yeah,
I mean, he
I
definitely
mean,
has the
yeah,
pace. We can't argue. I mean,
yep, yep.
but it just needs to all come together for him. And yeah, if he would have survived a few more final laps, he could probably be P4 in this championship. But yeah, at this rate, you might just try to get yourself up the grid as much as possible. But yeah, that's basically Division 7, so we can expect a close fight for the Constructors' Championship. Browns to Buns, McMassey and Matthew fighting for the fourth spot in the championship. Bugasm just fighting for race win after race win again. And Spud Racing just causing the casual safety car number 4 in Division 7. But definitely going to be an interesting race. Definitely watch that one on Chess Miller's Twitch account. That's definitely going to be interesting to finalize basically the first Division 7 GRL season in season 3 this time around. And yeah, so as we talked about all the one divisions, we obviously head over to the overall constructors. Well, once again, Alpine didn't have the best of weekends, which is obviously from a neutral perspective very good to see. Alpine are now on 1,844 points, with Aston Martin on 1,777. So they're definitely closing in. They're now on 67 points behind Alpine. So that might be even possible if they have a great weekend next week. Williams on 1,702.5 points, with McLaren on 1,571.5. So they jump up to P4 in the championship. Alfa Romeo then, the team of Marley next season, where he'll own this team and guide them hopefully to victory, sit on 1,511 points, with Ferrari on 1,489. Then we've got Mercedes on 1,442.5 and Red Bull on 1,395, just 70 points ahead of the sister team based at Venza AlphaTauri. And rounding off the table, we've got Haas on 1,210.5. I mean, Blade, that's probably the end now of Williams' chances on the overall constructors, but you probably have to say Aston Martin might have licked some blood there now.
Yeah, potentially. I think still quite a big gap between the two. But yeah, they're still in it. I mean, definitely that kind of points margin. We've seen, I think, a team make up that points deficit in one race. So it's definitely possible. But I think if you ask me, I think Alpine have this in the bag. They probably need a pretty poor weekend to not win the overall constructors. But then again, as we've always been saying, Aston Martin is so strong in the lower divisions that you definitely can't count them out. And obviously, us at Williams, I think we're sat pretty comfortably in P3 now. Maybe we could just like Aston Martin might be able to nab it off Alpine. We might be able to nab P2 off Aston Martin if they have a bad weekend, but it's probably quite unlikely. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think looking at the overall, to be honest, I could see this just being the order after Brazil, which would be quite boring. But um, yeah, I think Alfa Romeo are in a bit of danger looking at the standings. They
Yeah,
didn't
definitely.
score. Oh yeah, they scored very few points. That's less. Is that less than a race win's worth of points?
Oh my goodness, it's
Yeah,
20
that's
points. Yeah, yeah.
that's not ideal. They're in danger from Ferrari, who
Yeah, it's amazing how such
uh
a weekend can suddenly put you from P4 to being in danger to maybe even drop to P7. So,
yeah yeah Alfa Romeo are in a bit of danger, and I think that's the kind of weekend Alpine needs to have for Aston Martin to have a chance, to be honest.
yeah,
But
definitely. I mean, ideally
yeah
Alpine and Aston Martin, so you can.
yeah so yeah,
But I
Williams
mean,
1-2 in every division.
yeah, yeah,
So
a 140 points ish is a bit a stretch. But if you do so, you will have very good chances. But yeah, I mean, Alpine have led pretty much all the way, and so far it looks like nobody can really stop them. But yeah, that's the overall constructors then as well. And now let's talk about our favorite division, which is Formula 2. And you weren't there, so it was actually quite close. Uh, I mean, I say it was quite close. Gibson got pulled by 9 tenths. So,
I think
um,
that's bigger than any pole margin I've had.
yeah,
So
I mean, we don't need to particularly mention that Gibson was doing this on his F1 setup because he forgot to save the F2 setup, um, which probably was a minimum tire pressures or something. And what did he say? 8, 12, 18 wings, something like this. Maybe a little bit higher. I think 1822 or something. But yeah, I don't know how he's pulled that together off a quali lap, but definitely did. Then we had the sprint race, where Gibbs and Dara came together. Spot Racing made the dive bomb of the century. Um, Nathan was actually racing alongside Sparky. Sparky filled the all spotted campus. So I think we couldn't have found anyone better to replace you there, considering pure pace. Um, yeah, and then Nathan was leading with a 3 second time penalty. Then we've got in second place Gibson with a 3 second time penalty. In third, Otto with a 6 second time penalty. And then I was in fourth with no penalties. Otto then suddenly went off track, just going straight, which was ideal at the hairpin. And I was, I think, 3.3 seconds off Gibson, who was second, obviously, with 2 laps to go. But Nathan was doing a great move, which was battling Gibson. So I could actually win the race in the end based on penalties because Nathan was defending for his life against Gibson there. Definitely gave me some Drazzy vibes from Monday. But they were side by side basically the whole last sector. But in the end, Nathan snatched a P2 away from Gibson in P3 with I think Otto being in P4 and they're actually retiring from the sprint race. Then in the feature race, Dara started on softs, the super softs that actually was, and everyone else basically was on the mediums. Spud Racing, I think, also wasn't super softs, but couldn't take too much of an advantage there. So yeah, it was Darren taking the lead on his super softs from Gibson in P2 and me in P3. But then Gibson had a disconnect, dropping him very far down the order. And then he had to fight with Sparky basically all race, while Dara picked up 6 seconds of penalties, which also gifted me the win on the reverted strategy pretty much. To pick up a second win of the day based on penalties. And so it was myself in P1, Dara in P2, Nathan, I think, in P3. I believe Otto in P4, and Sparky could fend off Gibson to get P5, which was his best finish of the season. So yeah, I mean, you probably haven't watched the stream because there was no stream, but well, um, what to make of the whole facts I've just thrown around on Formula 2?
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is you've been spotted. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I was there to be honest. I wanted to get spotted myself, but yeah. I mean, sound like you needed me really with Gibson getting 9/10 or whatever on pole really. So yeah,
Yeah,
but I think with Sparky's performance as well. I mean, what a drive! P5. I think that must be his best ever finish in GRL
it is.
ever.
Yes, it
So
is.
yeah,
Best ever.
I think next time out he'll have to be aiming for a podium
And it's
because
just a bit of a shame, really, because that one race where he was really up there fighting with the top guys. Darrell also had quite a good race, but we know over the course of the whole season, usually Darrell just can't keep it up compared to Sparky because he just does not have the consistency, especially in qualifying. Where Sparky just is has the consistency to deliver it every week to at least put himself on pole for the sprint race, which Dara also has a couple of times. But we know, as said, Dara doesn't really have the consistency to do so every week. But yeah, the Constructors' Championship has also been won now by Virtuosi Racing because MP couldn't gain the advantage from Virtuosi back. Campos still sitting in third. In Brazil last season, we had a very, very close race between some amazing drivers. Around Division 1, Division 2 level. Going into Brazil, where basically both championships are decided now, and it's only pretty much between Distenbald and Gibson for P4 in the MP battle, and the Virtuosi battle for P2 between myself and Dara. What do you think can we look forward to at Interlagos Formula 2?
yeah, not too sure really. Obviously, some inter-team rivalries going on, so I'm sure you and Dara, I know you've been best of friends this season, driving around in your blue
100%.
Virtuosi cars. So I'm sure, I'm waiting to see at the end of each race, you two waiting for each other, letting each other pass, saying no, you first because you want the other two well. No, I think yeah, obviously, I'm sure you want to from P2. Are you in P2 in the standings? I don't actually
Uh,
know.
yeah, it's very close currently, but there is just about ahead right now. But
Mhm.
as basically me being the god of trivia now, the only thing I can say when I see Dara sitting in the P2 with me being in P3 is you can sit on a throne that doesn't make you ruler. It only means you have an ass. So we definitely are looking forward to uh, to Brazil for that battle because, as said, we've always been very kind to each other on and off track, no contact whatsoever. So be ready for Virtuosi enforcing Mercedes 2016 tactics. Um,
2016 Spain tactic, I think.
yes,
So,
exactly. That's the one time you're gonna sit in third place and just watch.
yeah, I don't even need to be on pace next time. So
Yeah.
hopefully I can make it. I want to make the last race of the season. So yeah, I'll try and make it. I'll be there, I'm sure, and I think I'll slow down and have a
Yeah.
look at what
Just
everyone's
don't
doing,
turn
really,
up.
because
I'll win the sprint and heat race as
yeah,
well.
well,
Then
yeah.
afterwards, when you look at the standings, you'll realize you have been betrayed. You never won the championship, and it was just us faking you, doing AC esports
Oh
simply
dear,
to
yeah.
lose the
The
championship.
ultimate, yeah, the ultimate.
Bait.
We talk about strategic masterclasses, but that one's the ultimate one, I think. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that would be that's a good idea. We should have done it at the Zandvoort.
Oh
But
dear. Yeah.
yeah, Formula 2 definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, if Adam Reed's around
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, definitely. We got to get someone in for Formula 2 at Interlagos. That's surely going to
Yeah.
be very interesting.
POV stream, I think.
Oh yeah, like Dara did at the first of the
Yeah,
this
we'll
year.
we'll all get cancelled in the party chat probably, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So
but you know why? We have 4 channels. Doesn't matter. Um. So that's Twitch's problem, not ours.
Mm.
Yeah, that's another podcast pretty much wrapped up. I think we're looking forward for the final few championships being decided. At Interlagos, Brazil, there's no better track to decide the championship. Rain could be in the clouds somewhere, um, than pissing it down, in any division really. Close championships, especially Division One, as we said earlier, as we said 1,000 times, that's going to be absolutely massive. And then basically after next week, you would think there's a break. No, there isn't, because exactly 7 days later, Darren and myself will be there for draft night of season 3.5, and he'll be champion from there on, and he'll be ruling the throne there. We'll
Yeah.
see. Definitely going to be very interesting with all our team owners, like couple of them being on stream, some of them just sending us their draft picks and to find out in which division which driver is. But as far as I'm aware, next week I should be here reviewing the Brazilian Grand Prix, actually with Dara, since I think around Monza. That was around 12:13, but I'm sure we might hear Blade in there as well at some stage. So definitely tune in for that one. And until then, I'd say goodbye. See you when every championship is decided and when GRL returns. Goodbye.